Chapter 1. Okay, girls, time to check out your new home. Maddie Mills scooped up the small dogs one by one out of the back seat of her SUV and helped them down onto the ground. The West Highland White Terriers sniffed at the dirt driveway, then looked up at Maddie with wide eyes. I know, it smells weird. Everything's going to be a little different. But as long as we are together, it's going to be just fine. Come on, Bella and Polly. Maddie grabbed their leashes and headed toward the porch. A loud creak echoed through Maddie's ears as she stepped on the floorboard of the dusty front steps. Welcome home, Maddie. She looked over the large, filthy windows that framed the ancient green door. She recalled the last time her mother had painted it. As a young girl, she'd thought the color was so bright that it would never fade. Although it had faded a bit, it was still bright. The home had been in her family for a long time, and after her mother's death years ago, she hadn't been able to return to it. As a mother juggling 3 kids and a husband, she had been overwhelmed by the loss of her mother, and couldn't handle the thought of walking through the door of the house without hearing her mother call out a greeting. Now at 48, Maddie was back at the house she had grown up in, a house she hadn't returned to in years. It wasn't the only thing that had gathered dust while she wasn't paying attention. She'd once believed that her life was as glossy and bright as that fresh coat of green paint on the front door had been. But during her divorce, a few months before, and her ex-husband's subsequent arrest, she discovered that things were not as squeaky clean as she had once imagined. I guess I have quite a bit of cleaning to do now. Maddie swept her gaze up to the second story. Nothing that a bit of cleaning won't fix. Maddie led the dogs up to the front door. She slid a key into the lock and held her breath as she wondered if it would even turn. A second later, the lock gave way, and the door swung open. She braced herself, still half expecting to hear her mother's sing-song voice call out. She was always thrilled when they visited. Move back here, Maddie. Bayview is a great place to raise your kids, and you and I will get to spend so much time together. Back then, in her 20s, with 2 toddlers and an infant, the idea of moving back to the tiny town of Bayview sounded like a prison sentence, not a paradise. Now, after more than 20 more years of life, she understood her mother's desire. She wished her own children lived close to her, and now that her first grandchild was born, she loved the idea of getting to see her every day. But life hadn't panned out that way. In the end, her mother had come to live with her in her last years of life. It wasn't what she had planned, but she had enjoyed her final years with Maddie and her grandchildren. Maddie hoped that getting the big house cleaned up and making it her home might turn it into a place where her family could join together for the holidays and reunions. But it was far from that at the moment. She looked around at the furniture covered in once white sheets. Amber West had done all of that for her, her best childhood friend. They had drifted apart when they went off to college, but when Maddie's mother had died, she was right there to get done what needed to be done. Again, they had drifted apart. She smiled as she looked forward to seeing her again. Maddie held the leashes of the eager dogs and mounted the stairs that led to the second floor. She smiled as she passed a collection of photographs on the wall. Her parents, her as a child, her younger sister, their lives together. She ran her fingertips through the layer of dust on the surface of the glass and uncovered her bright 8-year-old grin. How different things had looked then.